Good morning. Sometimes people will ask, Rob, do you ever get nervous when you get up in front of people? And this morning I am, because I've been fighting some sort of sinus infection or something, and I'm afraid my voice is going to crack at just the wrong time, and you'll all laugh at my expense. No, but it's easier to get up in front of people that you know love you, and you love them back. So it's not nearly as nerve-wracking as getting up in front of a group of strangers and having to present something as it is to do it among friends and among people who are always encouraging and loving. And so it's a great place to be. If you're visiting with us, I hope you get to experience some of the relationships that can be formed here and some of the encouragement that can be gathered up. So that said, let's proceed to the voice cracking, shall we? We're going through the book of Job, and we've gotten about halfway through chapter 1. Things will pick up a little faster after this, but chapters 1 and 2 are kind of essential to really understanding what the book of Job is all about. And so remembering the proper purpose of Job and also knowing what the purpose of Job isn't. So the purpose of Job is not to explain why good people have bad things happen to them. That's not the purpose of Job. If you're looking to Job to explain to you why bad things happen to good people, or more precisely in Job, why bad things happen to righteous people, you will come out sorely disappointed. Because that's not the point or the purpose of Job. If you come at Job and you think, I'm going to discover the inner workings in the heavenly realms, and I'm going to find out exactly how God deals with the angelic beings and the sons of God that are there and the deals that are made, you will also come out with a fairly quirky understanding of the heavens. Because that's not the purpose of Job either. The purpose of Job is something quite different. So what I want to do is go through everything we went through last week, but faster. And then pick up where we left off. There once was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. That man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. Someone had asked last week, does this mean that Job was sinless? Well, no, because Job himself will actually refer to the sins of his youth later on in the book. But what it does mean is that Job is an upright, upstanding man of his time, greater than any other man that existed while he was alive. He's blameless, he's upright, he turns to God, he shuns away from evil. This is who Job is. It doesn't mean he led a perfect life. It means he led a better life than anyone else who had ever walked the face of the earth. Not that he was sinless. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters, the perfect amount. He had 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people in the east. Not only was he great in his righteousness, he was great in his wealth. And at that time, those two things went hand in hand. If you were righteous, of course you were wealthy. Of course, because God is blessing your life because of your righteous works. And the opposite would be true. Even if you didn't know a person, if they were wealthy, you could assume they were righteous. Because otherwise, how could they acquire so much wealth and yet be unrighteous? The two would go hand in hand. And so Job is not only blameless and upright, he is also very wealthy. And everyone reading the story at the time would have said, as he should be. This is exactly how it's supposed to go. His sons used to go and hold feasts in one another's houses in turn, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the feast days had run their course, Job would send and sanctify them. And he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to their number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This is what Job always did. right? I think Chris Tomlin sings a song called He's a Good, Good Father, right? That's Job. He's a good, good father. Always caring for his children, not only physically but spiritually, providing for them, caring for them, watching out for them, doing things just in case. Right? He didn't get to go to the party. We don't know why. Maybe he wasn't a party guy. But he's not there and he thinks maybe one of them had too much to drink and said something they shouldn't have said. I'll make a sacrifice for them. I'll make sure that they are taken care of. And it happened one day that the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh, and the Satan also came into their midst. Now remember, the sons of God are kind of like these other divine beings. Other people say they're like angelic beings. Depending on what you think of when you think of angels, that may or may not be an accurate depiction in your head. The way the story is being told is it's being told like a royal court. When a king gathers all of his spies and all of his servants to come, and they report to them what they've been doing and what's been going on, what they've been up to. And it says, the Satan, which just means the accuser, also came into their midst. Yahweh said to the Satan, "From where have you come?" Then the Satan answered Yahweh and said, "From roaming on the earth and from walking about in it." Yahweh said to the Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? Indeed, there is no one like him on the earth, a blameless man and upright, God-fearing and turning away from evil." So here we have that description again of Job, this upright, righteous, God-fearing, evil-shunning man. Then the Satan answered Yahweh, "Does Job fear God for nothing?" You see, the real question of Job isn't, why do righteous people suffer? The real question is, why does a person serve God? That is the question of Job. Now, there are a lot of other questions that get asked along the way, but the primary question of Job, especially in the first 2 chapters, is, why do you serve God? Why are you faithful to God? Is it because God is giving you good things? This is what the accuser says. This is what the Satan says. He says, "Have you not put a fence around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land." In other words, Job is faithful to you only because you bless him. And that's it. If you stop blessing him, he will stop being faithful. So the Satan says, "But stretch out your hand now and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face." All right, so the bet has been made. The wager has been presented. And Job's livelihood at this point is on the line. The Satan says, if you do this, he won't be faithful anymore. Because he only loves you because you give him what he wants. Yahweh said to the Satan, "Very well, all that he has is in your power, only do not stretch out your hand against him." So the Satan went out from the presence of Yahweh. And this is more or less where we ended last week. See, I told you to be faster. Didn't believe me, but here we are. 6 minutes in, we're already here. We're about to see 4 waves of Deuteronomic curses come upon Job. And they will come wave after crashing wave after crashing wave, one right after the other, one right on the heels of the other. Job doesn't know it's coming. Only the reader, that's us, knows what's going on. Only the reader has had this backstory about what's going on in the heavenly realm with Yahweh and the sons of God, and the Satan is there, and the bet's been made. Job doesn't know anything about it. He'll have some other people in his life, his wife, his 3 friends that show up, a 4th guy named Elihu that shows up. They don't know anything about it. In fact, they never do know anything about it. It's like we're in on a secret, except you guys don't like the secret. Because it looks like God just likes to play with people's lives. Right? So 4 waves of Deuteronomic curses. A couple of weeks ago we read through, not all the curses because it gets exhausting, but we read through several of the curses that happen. Job experiences every single one. Every single one of them. One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the older brother's house, again, probably a birthday feast, a messenger came to Job and said, now we know it's probably not going to be good because the Satan has gone out and he's about to do something. The servant comes and he says, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabines attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. So remember all those donkeys and oxen that Job had? They're all gone. All the servants that were taking care of all those animals, they're all gone, except for this one guy who's escaped. And he's made it just barely to tell Job, everything you have is gone. Enemies have attacked. We didn't chase them out in 7 directions. In fact, they defeated us. And I'm the only one alive to tell you this horrible news. That's wave number 1. While he was still speaking. So, as you read the Bible, this is just a nerd note or whatever. As you're reading the Bible and you're like, hey, this is like, there's a pattern here, thing after thing after thing. It reads like a parable. Because it is. So while the first servant is still finishing up telling him all the horrible news, while he is still speaking, another messenger came and said, the fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Oh man, first my enemies are attacking me. Now there's fire from the heavens attacking me. What is going on? While he was still speaking, the 3rd wave comes. Another messenger came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, but you've already guessed it. But I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Everything that Job has is disappearing in a matter of minutes. While he was still speaking. Man, you ever had a bad day? You never had a day like this? Because this is going to be the final blow. The 4th wave, the most devastating wave. It's one thing to have your animals die and your fields get plundered. It's another when something happens to your children. And those of you that have been fortunate enough to have kids, you know what it feels like when someone messes with your kid. Nothing will get, I don't know if any of you guys say this down here, I haven't said this in a while, nothing will get under your craw. No? No one says that around here? Okay, that's an Ohio thing. Nothing will get on your nerves or get under your skin or bother you more than when someone starts messing with your kid. You can become a whole different person. Someone you never knew you were the moment something happens to your kid. And those of you who are, all of us have been children at some point, should make us feel good that our parents felt that way about us. Anyway, back to Job. While he was still speaking, yet another messenger, another wave came and said, your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind, what? Well, it's one thing for the Sabines and the Chaldeans to come. It's another thing for God to send fire and wind. A mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the four corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead. And I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. So Job has no possessions, no wealth, no children. It's him and his wife. That's all he has left. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground. What do you think he does next? What would you do next? Confession, I probably would not do what Job does next. I would skip the rest of chapter 2 and I'd jump straight to chapter 3, would be me. We're not going to get there today. You're allowed to read ahead if you want. He fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will return." In other words, when God brought me into this world, I had nothing. And when I leave this world, I'll have nothing again. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. This would not be what I would say. Just being honest with y'all, this is not what I would say. This is not what I would do. I might tear my clothes and I might shave my head, but I would not say, well, love God, he gave me stuff, he took it away. Blessed be his name. That's probably not what maybe it's what I should say. Maybe it's why God has never said, hey, the Satan, have you considered my servant Rob? In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. Whew! Right? Man! It's the end. The Satan lost. How can Job be 42 chapters long? We're not even through the first chapter yet, and Satan's already lost, right? The accuser, he's already been proven wrong. How in the world can we make another 41 chapters out of this story? But we're not even close to the end. We are not even close. Because not only has the church misunderstood the purpose of Job, the book, he has some people in his life, Job does, who also do not understand the purpose of what's going on. No one knows. They all think they know. And it's a very dangerous thing to think that you know something that you actually do not know, because you don't know that you don't know. We're not even close to the end of Job. Not even close. Chapter 2. On another day, the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh. So again, the royal spies have come back from the territory and they're reporting to God all the things that they've seen and heard. And the Satan has also came and with them to present himself before him. And Yahweh said to the Satan, "Where have you come from?" This all sounds very familiar. I wonder what's going to happen next. Someone had said the word foreshadowing earlier in the service, and my English, Natalie looked at me and she goes, "Foreshadowing?" This is foreshadowing. If you paid attention to chapter 1, you can pretty well guess what's going to happen in chapter 2. It won't be pleasant. Yahweh said to the Satan, "Where have you come from?" The Satan answered Yahweh, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then Yahweh said to the Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him. There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Still, even after everything that's happened to him, he's still that guy. And he still maintains his integrity. You could replace the word integrity there with innocence. Though you incited me against him to ruin him without reason. Now remember, I've said there are key verses in books that help you to understand what the book is about. This is one of them. It's without reason. There's no purpose behind it. There's no point behind it. Job didn't do anything wrong. Job isn't being punished, and he's not being disciplined, and nothing is going on in that. It's for no reason whatsoever. And you have to understand this, because there are certain people who suffer and they wish they could find out the reason why. What did they do? What did a family member do? What did their parents do? What did their grandparents do? Somebody did something to deserve it. And Job says, there's no reason. There's no reason at all. Now, you might read the story and say, well, there is reason because God made a bet with the Satan. That's just the backstory to set up what's about to happen. We're not meant to read Job and say, that's how it all works. God's always placing bets over our lives. No. That's the backstory. God says, you incited me. It's very interesting because God's always the one bringing up Job. He says, you incited me to ruin him without any reason. You see, as an ancient reader, they might start to read Job chapter 1 and say, Job must have done something wrong somewhere. All these descriptions of Job, they must not be 100% accurate because otherwise these bad things wouldn't happen to him. But in Job chapter 2, God puts that to rest by still calling him upright and blameless. And all these bad things happened without cause. No reason at all. And this might be a hard thing to swallow, but sometimes bad things happen in your life and there is nothing you can do about it because there is no cause. It just happens. It might be hard to swallow that, but it's actually also very freeing. Because then you realize I don't have to fix everything in my life. I can't. Not everything has a cause and effect. Some things just happen. It's just, sometimes life is full of random chaos. It's just the way it is. Skin for skin, the Satan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. So the Satan has upped the ante, so to speak, keeping with the gambling jargon. He's up the ante. He's like, okay. First time around, you said I can't touch him, so I touched everything but him. But if you'll touch him, if you let the curses actually affect him and his body, he will just quit on you, God. Yahweh said to the Satan, very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. Why must he spare his life? Because it's awfully hard to remain faithful to God once you're dead. If the purpose is to show that people will serve God and love God and be faithful to God, even when they have no blessings in their life, it's hard to prove that point when you're dead. So you have to spare his life. You have to spare his life. The Satan went out from the presence of Yahweh and afflicted Job with painful boils from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Now remember, we've seen this. This is straight out of Deuteronomy chapter 28. This is a specific curse for those who are disobedient. But Job's not disobedient. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your innocence? Curse God and die." See, his wife, unbeknownst to her, she has become an active agent in the role of the accuser, in the role of the Satan, encouraging Job to do what the Satan wants him to do, which is just curse God and give up and say, "I'm done with all of this. Where are the blessings that were promised to me?" She doesn't actually tell him he was guilty of anything, though. You notice that? She just says, "Are you still maintaining your innocence? Why don't you just quit? Just quit." Now, some people were very hard on Job's wife, as they should know. Some people were very hard on Job's wife because she does unknowingly kind of take an active role on the side of the accuser, right? But how would you feel if you were married to a man and you've had 10 children together, children who are all old enough, living on their own and feasting together, and all your livestock are gone, your children are gone, your servants are gone, your fields are gone, and now your husband's health is gone? Maybe she's just tired of seeing him suffer so much. And maybe she's angry with God too. Because why would God let this happen? I don't think we should make fun of his wife. I think we should understand his wife. Because she probably loves Job. Everybody loved Job. But suddenly chaos hits and life doesn't make any sense anymore. So Job speaks to his wife in the way that all husbands should speak to their wives. You want to see it? This is biblical information and instruction for husbands to how to treat their wives. You guys ready? He replied, "You are talking like one of the foolish women. Do not try this at home." I'm not going to say I know from firsthand experience, but just don't try it at home. He says, "You are talking like one of the foolish women." He's talking about these women that live outside of his family, who do not know God and they do not fear God. Because the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So the foolish women are the ones who are maybe saying that he's either a bad God or there is no God. He says, "You're speaking like someone who doesn't have faith in God. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" It's a great question. Why are we so happy to get the things that we want, but we're really bad at getting things we don't want? We're like really bad. I'm horrible at it. I've never liked something I got that I didn't want. We receive all these blessings from God. We're like, "Oh, these blessings from God, they're so great." But something bad happens. "Oh, what's wrong with God?" Shall we accept good things from God and not trouble? Now the prophets, they had an answer to that question. The answer was, yes, you accept the good and the bad. The good is the blessings you got for being obedient, and the bad are the curses you got for being disobedient. That is literally every prophet. Actually, in the book of Lamentations, there's a verse that basically says exactly that. God gives and we accept the good from God, and God gives and we accept the bad from God because God is punishing us for our sin. But Job says that knowing that he's not being punished for sin. It's different. In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Now, if you're thinking about a passage from a few weeks ago, which maybe you are, maybe you're not, Job chapter 42, and you jump all the way to the end, it shows Job repenting. What is he repenting of if he still hasn't said anything wrong? And in fact, in chapter 42, God will say, Job has spoken rightly about me, unlike you three friends, which will meet in not too short a period of time. So what is Job repenting of? We'll get there. We're not going to get there today. You may have noticed we got about 40 chapters to go through before we get there. In all of this, Job did not sin in what he said. The storm has passed. And we had the 4 initial waves of plagues, so to speak. We had a 5th plague affecting Job's health, but the storm has passed, or has it? Just when you think, well, it can't get any worse than this, right? How could it possibly get any worse than this? It can, and it does. But this time, not at the hands of God or at the hands of the Satan, but at the hands of the people who are meant to love him. Things do get worse. For now, Job has received an A+ on his exam. 100 out of 100. The accuser was wrong about Job. Now, from here on out, in the story of Job, you will not see the accuser again. He doesn't show up anymore. Instead, we'll have 3 agents that show up. Agents who are friends. But the accuser was wrong about Job. And for us, the question is, will he be wrong about us? Now, let me set your minds at ease. God is not up in heaven talking to the sons of God and talking to the Satan who's been scouring the earth to find someone who's maybe getting away with something and says, hey, have you considered my servant Ignacio? Hey, have you considered my servant Paul? That's not happening. But life does happen. When chaos hits, and everything you thought you knew about life and Scripture and God and how this whole thing works, it all starts to fall apart. Will he be wrong about us when our lives start to fall apart? And they will. They will. Join us next week as we continue in Job.